Systematics from San Francisco State University in 2005 and has over 18 years of experience in vegetation monitoring and habitat enhancement projects throughout the San Francisco Bay Area. Please welcome Diana.
She gave us cough drops too, that's great. Hi again. Good afternoon now instead of good morning. Diana Benner with the Watershed Nursery, and I was asked to speak with you guys today about our experience of implementing the CDFA BMPs that Kathy was talking about earlier in our nursery. And I know there's a lot of other folks here of nurseries who have stories too, and it's been really fun today talking about implementing different, whether we're calling them these official BMPs or not. It's been a great experience already today of sharing information. But I want to, basically I'm telling you guys a story, so I'm going to start the story at the beginning. For those of you who don't know, my business partner, Laura Hansen, and I were both working doing community-based restoration work, environmental ed, as well as vegetation monitoring. Both of those activities primarily in tidal wetlands, and after a while of doing that, found that we were not finding the plant diversity of plant material we wanted or the site specificity of it in the Bay Area. So we decided to start a nursery. We started in a basketball court. Then we moved on up, oops, that's not where we're supposed to go. Moved on up to a tennis court. Some of you here today have visited. And now we're living large in this facility in Point Richmond, which is about a half a football field. And from just the two of us doing everything, we've got fabulous crew now helping us out. So we've come a long way. And I want to remind you guys, when we started here, that we both came into it with training as environmental scientists, ecologists, no horticultural training. So the first thing that we did was go visit the other existing restoration nurseries and talk about something to confirm that you've made a correct decision in your life direction, because the world of the restoration nursery people are doing it not because it's the big bucks realm, but because of their passion about it. So it's an incredible community, and everybody was super welcoming, open with information, invited us to their site, shared everything, and it's been like that the whole time, which is part of what the California Native Nursery Network has evolved out of. It's really cool. Also, because we were doing monitoring, we got the chance to interview some of the environmental consultants we were working with about gaps they might see in availability of material. And after doing all that, we developed this mission statement, and as I said, was true for us in the beginning, and I believe true for all other restoration nurseries, is we started doing what we do with a real dedication to how we do it, doing it really well because of our love of the natural resources in this area. So from the very beginning, we've been really dedicated to trying to stay abreast of issues in the restoration vegetation world. So that means issues about genetic purity, genetic hybridization, issues with sycamores and walnuts and lamus, and also looking at weeds, and then climate change came into it, and new pests that come up, and new names of all the plants. Why do they keep doing that? And you know, we were aware of Phytophthora ramorum, of course, and I wasn't aware, Ted pointed this out earlier, but this name, this root, origin of Phytophthora, plant destroyer. I mean, it sounds like Mordor land that they come from. And you know, we were aware of it. The orders for Umbellularia dropped off immediately, and we were changed our collecting protocols, and we're getting regularly inspected by the Department of Ag, targeting that organism in particular. And you know, cruising along, some of us, we've talked about that the Phytophthora ramorum had been we don't have the high-risk species except the Umbellularia, but the ornamental ones, and we're growing stuff from seed, which had not been identified as a vector. So not really thinking that the native plant nurseries were a high-risk vector for this organism, besides the fact that we hike around everywhere, but besides that. And then a year ago, this organism, about a year ago, came on our radar. And it came on our radar really hard and scary. And one of the main reasons for that is you see this bolded sentence here. And that was totally heartbreaking, because it's all of us who are working in this industry are doing it, like I said, I'm going to say it again, because of our passion. We're trying to do all of our work to enhance habitat to help these environments, and something that we had done had been sending something detrimental out into the environment. So very important, as you've heard me say, what are we going to do about it? We had been introduced, this is the manual mentioned a couple times previously, the Oregon Nursery Association manual that introduces this systems approach that Karen was going over. It's a really great manual. It's got a lot of fabulous information in it. But if you look at these pictures, just a little bit different scale than the nursery operations we were working on. And so I was feeling pretty daunted. I mean, if you look at the solutions being offered for these in this manual as potentials, these pieces of equipment up here are all soil sterilizers that will get it to the temperature for prescribed time. Here's an option for if you're going to reuse your containers, this piece of equipment. I think this was in Kathy's slide or Karen's, but this thing is so cool. It like sprays sanitizing fluid on the tires of the trucks. Well, we don't have that either. So, besides budget, we just don't really have space for a lot of these types of approaches to them anyway. So I want to back up. I'm not ready for that one. So we were feeling a little daunted, and I had been enough on the periphery of what was happening with this SFPUC thing that I knew the company that was involved in isolating the organism. So I called them, and it was Ted. And Ted was great, super gracious, and took a ton of time with me in that first phone call to talk about these organisms and what had happened and potential for moving them out. And it was clear, he was really adamant about how important it was, how big the impact could be from these organisms. And I emphasized to him how important I thought it was that the native nurseries be on, sort of the most important focus for Department of Ag and other people to be giving this information to, because our material's going out into the field. But feeling like most of the operations that had been set up had been planned on the scale of the ornamental nurseries. So how do we translate that to the scale of what restoration nurseries are operating on? Most of the ones I know are not operating on this kind of scale. So Ted was pretty encouraging of getting the restoration nurseries on board with all this, and he gave me the contact information for Kathy and Karen, who came basically immediately to our nursery to introduce their BMP manual to us. And one of the things about Laura and I is we really like actionable to-do items a lot. And so here we had been given something from Kathy and Karen that was, sort of like a step-by-step. And even though it's focused, originally was written focused on P. remorum, the steps that are involved in it are incredibly applicable to all pests and pathogens. It just translates across the board. And they were manageable. We could look at them. So since being introduced to that manual, our nursery, we have established a quarantine area. So this is away from all the other production area of the nursery, and we're holding plants there variable amount of times depending on the species that they are and the history that they've had. We have implemented a little foot bath scrubber that you're talking about, so it's scrub there and foot bath, and we have a sign there to explain to the public why we're making them step in liquid. It's got a sanitizing liquid in there. We've established a container washing system. Karen had like a few steps back in this process, and it took a while for us to figure out the best strategy for the sanitizing. As I've been talking with other native nurseries, is a lot of our production methods are trying to not fill up landfill. And having sort of the environmental concern on that side as well, so the balancing between them. And knowing that you're sanitizing your containers well enough has been a thing. So if anybody is interested in what specific system we developed, I'll tell you the details, secret details. We changed all the surfaces to non-porous ones that can be disinfected. You've seen these folks already. Our dogs are Fatafara free as well, I promise. But yeah, we basically added about 6 inches of drain rock underneath, which already had some drain rock, and then put this pond liner in here so it can be emptied completely and disinfected. The other thing that's really been incredibly cool in the process of learning about this, I don't even remember the date when you guys first came out, but the conversation has been happening with the staff at the nursery also. And so we have been asking all of our crew to chime in too with things that they're seeing as areas in our production that might be a potential vector. So from that, we've got dedicated soil buckets that are upside down, dedicated soil shovels, and then a strap across the soil bin so that you can't enter without remembering to dunk your feet before you go in. So that's been a really cool process. All of these measures, this is a subset of what we've implemented there, but really? Okay, so all of these things are have been really helpful, I think, across the board, as I said, for pests and pathogens. I do have to admit that I still, when I see truck commercials like this, I'm still cringing, as I just see Phytophthora flying all over the place. And I do think that all our crew has gotten a little on edge. We're in dirt all the time, and now we're like, we're infected. But no, we're feeling less panicky. And one of the things that's really great about the manual, as Kathy pointed out, is that we were encouraged by them to customize it for our site. So it's laid out with these specific individual BMPs, and we went through each one of them and decided whether they apply to us or not. Some of them aren't going to apply because they're made for nurseries of a scale that are maybe not your scale. Whether it applied to us or not, and then we decided how we were going to address each one. And then we, with our crew, really developed a detailed, step-by-step how we're going to implement them. And we've rearranged the manual, we put it in different order, and we've organized it basically by areas in the nursery that we have, so that in each one of those areas, the BMPs are printed, laminated, and available, so anyone who's working in that section of the nursery can refer to those how-to steps while they're in there. So that's been a really wonderful tool, and I wanted to say that we still have a few more things to button up. So soil, heat treating your soil is a little bit of a challenge. We've had a little challenge so far figuring this out. There are some systems that exist on the market, and they're in the ballpark. Most of them are around $30,000, which currently is a little out of our budget range. I did find something else that is a heat treating of soil, which we could use, except it uses a 220, which our nursery doesn't have. So back to the drawing board. From the very beginning, Ted had been saying to me, just build one, which is not exactly my forte right there, but it is my brother's. My brother, who's a physicist engineer on the East Coast, I called him 2 weeks ago, finally kind of in desperation, I need help. So he's been thinking about it, and the next thing you know, I'm getting these text messages with these propane smokers coming in, which I thought, actually, we have a new pest at our nursery, so I thought, we could have heat-treated soil and smoked venison. It would be really, really good. But we're not going to do our deer that way, I promise. Anyway, there is a little prototype that he put together that will be on the nursery tour, which just gives sort of, for me, an empowerment of how to approach this, build it challenge. Another issue, this has been part of our BMPs, is we've talked a lot about with trucks coming in, and the contractors that we've had this conversation with so far have been awesome, really understanding, and to the point where they're like, okay, I'm leaving your nursery, I'll go find a solar wash down their truck, come back if we've said no. But something we're considering having as well available is a pressure washer on site. So if somebody comes there and needs to enter and their truck is not deemed clean enough by us, that we can address that. Yesterday when we were doing the nursery tour, the discussion of vegetative material, Lamus triticioides maybe, or Iliocoris, primarily this is material that is going back to the project site, but we're bringing in soil from out in the field into the nursery that we can't sterilize. So how to address that issue is another challenge in front of us. But I think overall it's been a great process over this past year. I'm feeling way more empowered than I did a year ago. I think the two things that have been super helpful is understanding these vectors, soil, water, and plants. And you nursery people might be saying, well, that's all we deal with all the time is soil, water, and plants. True. But as Ted mentioned earlier, if you have your nursery in a setup that is clean, then you're talking about new soil and new plants. So it's not necessarily that all soil is to be scary. The other thing that I found super helpful was Ted's saying to me, think of it as an analogy to food safety. So all of us in our kitchens, when we're prepping food, conduct ourselves in a way to prevent risk of infection from organisms that you can't see. So it's along the same kind of lines of, if you dropped a fork on the floor, you would wash it before you gave it something to eat. If I drop my hose on the ground, I'm going to sterilize it before I use it for another purpose. And part of the thing in there that I think is so critical is the habit part. And it's the habit of the people who are working with the plants. And that habit comes out of information. So a big part of what our goal today and over the past year is educating all of us so that every single person who's on the nursery site is thinking critically at every point along in the production of what might be a weakness, an area where infection might be potential. And I've seen this happening. It's been really cool. Actually, we had part of our implementing of the BMPs, because it was focused on P. rumorum, there's a part about training on that, and our local ag rep, Ivan, I can't remember Ivan's last name, Ivan, came and did a training for us on what they're looking for when they come to the nursery and are doing a visual inspection for P. rumorum. So that was a really fabulous experience. It was cool because he brought us this quiz that has all these pictures of umbellularia leaves, and you're supposed to say which ones you think are infected or not, and it's really challenging, but it has led to basically, everybody in our nursery coming up and saying, what do you think about this leaf? What do you think about these roots? So everybody's eyes and brains have shifted in the past year of implementing these BMPs. So that's pretty exciting. And one of the other things that is super exciting is it's going beyond our crew. So because of that sign at the gate, not everybody, most people who walk through are like, what is this? What are you talking about? So it gives us an education chance with everyone who walks into the nursery. So these are people, not necessarily contractors, but we do have a retail site, so people who are hiking and being vectors potentially in that area also. And then also the contractors, because these BMPs are extending in ways that impact the contractors, having the discussion with them about these organisms, and it's it's been a wonderful experience because the contractors have been super receptive, accommodating, but also creative in strategizing on their end ways that they can sort of implement BMPs from their side of the production as well. So it has been exciting seeing how it's expanding. Oh, I have so much time, and that's okay because we're going to go to the nursery. So initially when I found out about this occurrence a year ago, the first and foremost thing on my mind was to get our nursery as clean as possible in our production methods. And the second one was to get the restoration nurseries all on the same page about how to address this issue. And today is the first day of that, you guys. But I'd like to do a follow-up meeting. I just want to say this right now that you're going to be getting a follow-up email from me because I'd really like to get all the nursery people now together to to talk about how we're going to incorporate BMPs and measures to prevent this happening. So we're gonna get together again soon, but Elisa says that one's with beer. So, and now I've got these expanded goals with it, which is just so amazing. I mean, it's so much further than I thought we would be in a year. But this general increased awareness within the restoration community, and that was, really the point of today, but also the opportunity for our discussion and collaborating together, and just the conversations that we've had today have shown me that it's working already. And recognition of these control points beyond the nursery. I had been thinking in our discussion yesterday about, we could be this careful all the way along in our production and then deliver our plants, and they could sit on the ground for a week or two, who knows where, and get infected while they're there. So, this idea of consciousness around potential vectors for contamination all the way through the process is why it's important for all of us to be here together today. And this goal here, all of us working together to make sure our work is accomplishing our goals of improving habitat quality. And I feel I had perfect, good. I meant to say this morning, but my sweetie who donated the baked goods back there, when I picked them up this morning, he said, "Look at all your group getting together has made it rain harder than it has in ages." So look at what we can do together. It's fantastic. So thanks you guys very much, and thanks for coming.